Welcome back to my music, episode 203. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the end of episode 202. But there's one thing we can't do. Smell-o-vision. If we had smell-o-vision right now, you'd be smelling onions. That's what's going on in my kitchen. Big onion smell. Woo. But as far as what to do in this episode, I'm gonna, kind of take a page from Jim. I'm not gonna play any music. Well, what am I saying? He went crazy in his episode, but I'm gonna put up some lists. That's what I'm gonna do. Okay. And this was born out of I like to make CDRs on for any reason whatsoever on a whim. And I know back in the day we used to make mixtapes, especially for the ladies. And now I make mix discs when inspiration calls. So this was an inspiration brought about by Marvin, who is putting on a poetry festival in a couple weeks on the 22nd in Neenah, California. Just a stone's throw from Lancaster, in case you were wondering where Neenah is. And Neenah is also the site where some meteorite was found that's on display at the LA County Museum of History and Art, which I happened to go to a couple weeks ago. And I'm going, what? Neenah? What's this? I've heard of it. Thanks to him. All right, so he wanted music for people to either enter or exit the festival with before the actual poets go on. And he gave me some names of very popular acts, and he hasn't finished yet. He gave me 12. And then he asked me if I wanted to make one too. That's where the trouble started. So I will now share how troublesome that became. I started off with this first disc. There's your indicator right now. I made 3 discs. This first one is the stuff that is like my favorites that involve songs that have spoken word in them, one way or another, speaking. And my share is unusually low today. I can't see the top of my own list. Well, I think that, what is the first song on there? Can you see the first song on the list?
EST, Trip to the Moon.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that set me off. I was picking stuff that was danceable, really maybe lacking in guitars, more electronic. And that made this list work for me. So I'll just go down it real quick. Alien Sex Fiend. I heard them for the first time when I was driving to Los Angeles about 3 a.m. in the morning. Had the window down trying to stay up, and then that song came on. That helped me stay up. And then there's a rapper. Her name is Beach. Depends how you pronounce it. And she's got this song called Rocky. Should have been a big hit. And then I've talked about just about all of these artists in past episodes. Black Moth Super Rainbow. They're electronic. Their vocals are electronic as well, so they're really spoken. And probably their most accessible song is Dreamsicle Bomb. Great video on YouTube. Recently, I talked about Blush Response, right? The group that named themselves after the Blade Runner movie. And they're just high-power electronic music, with, little spoken snips in it. We were just talking about Brian Eno, all right? Brian Eno has that album, My Life in the Bush of Ghosts.
That's a great album.
Help Me Somebody. Oh, that's a great album. It is.
Yeah,
it is. Help
that
Me Somebody.
Great.
Stood out for me, so I put it in there.
It's based on it's based on a novel. The title is based on a novel written by an African writer named Amos Tutuola called My Life in the Bush of Ghosts. And it's just awesome.
Thank you for adding to my knowledge. Thank you. I'm a big fan of the Charlatans, so I picked their most danceable stuff. Don't remember if there's any spoken word in that one. It was just danceable. And then the one that started all this, when Marvin gave me the opportunity to make a disc, I was thinking of In Your Face, because that's spoken intro. And that's really high energy. And that's kind of topped by the Future Sound of London's We Have Explosive, which is their most explosive song. It's just amazing. And they're using only snippets of other songs for the music. right? Those are samples, right? That's what they do. They use samples. And even the term "we have explosive" is spoken from some source, just like Brian Eno was doing in his album with David Byrne. And then there's Kraftwerk. They don't really sing, you know. Ladytron. I don't remember if that's spoken either, but it's kind of like a female Kraftwerk. And that's their best song. Little Fluffy Clouds. It's from The Orb, and it's probably their biggest hit. And it's basically this woman talking about the clouds with this great beats going on in the background. A related group, and the fact that they do the same kind of music is Orbital. They have a song called Satan that starts off with a very funny beginning. I won't let the cat out of the bag, but if you catch that song Satan, the beginning is quite hilarious. And it's a great beat. And then Stan Ridgway is another singer who's accused of not really singing. Right? Bel Air Blues from his album Work the Dumb Oracle. He went with a different name for that album, not using his own name. The name of the band was called Drywall, but it was really him and his girlfriend and one other guy. And finally, Objects in the Mirror sounds like Little Fluffy Clouds Part 2. It sounds like it's the same lady, but she's talking about something different. And this is by Sky Cries Mary, a band that really didn't hit it big, but they were definitely an interesting and unusual band. This is not typical of their music. Their music is more like X. But this is very subdued, closer to this disc. Very gentle ending, and just love it. So these were favorites. Now, just to be quick about it, I'm not going to go down these others like I did these. These are like I'm beseeching you guys, give these a listen. But the second disc, I'm not going to do that. These are artists that are not as well known, except for maybe Tame Impala. But
Budgie.
This is not the original Budgie.
Oh.
Not the hard rock Budgie. There's a new Budgie that does really soulful dance music. It's just very soulful. They are so soulful. A female vocalist is gorgeous, and I'm sure it's not well known at all, but it's really good. They need more exposure. And, you know, it's just all over the map here. I was recently recommending Crayola Eyes. They're like a updating of the Charlatans. And there's just some prolific artists on Bandcamp, like Macro Blank. They're putting out an album like every 2 months. How he does that, I don't know, but it's amazing. Yeah, so enough about that one. Oh, and the last one is Steven Wilson. You ever heard of Steven Wilson? Yeah, he's from the prog rock world. And he does remixes of all these prog rock standards, like Close to the Edge and Genesis, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. He does new sound mixes for them. It's the same music, but it's just the sound is pumped up and it's stronger and better sound mix. So a lot of artists are going to him to redo their old classic albums to get the sonics up. Yeah, so that's what Steven Wilson does. And he came out with this really revolutionary album because it's not prog rock at all. It's electronic music. And I loved it because I love electronic music. Okay, said too much about that disc. Is that the last disc? No, this is the last disc. I made 3 discs, see? So I went on a tear. Just obscure favorites. Like Flamingosis is another guy who's coming out with an album every couple months. And very soulful. It's really good. There's a band called Darkness, but that's not an A. Comes up at the end of the alphabet. I don't know why, but okay. And Eyes and Signs is a Kraftwerk tribute band that, you know, started with Kraftwerk type sound and made their own sound. I saw Fascinator open. He goes by the name Lord Fascinator. He opened for the Charlatans, and when I saw them in LA. And Moby, you probably heard of Moby. Maybe. Moby? Maybe, yes, maybe no. It's a generational thing. Pete Namlook, the legendary Pete Namlook, was switched his name around because they thought if his name was Luckman, I mean, no, Cool Man. His real last name was Cool Man. They thought that was too cheesy, so he turned it around and made it Namlook. Namlook. Yeah, so he passed away, but he was extremely prolific, great electronic musician. Schiller from Germany. I've told that story, how I discovered the name Schiller, right? Anybody remember that? My wife was in China during the pandemic, and she heard some song, and it was, I'm not remembering at the moment, but Celine Dion. Yeah, only she didn't know it was Celine Dion. She was asking me, who is it? And I Googled it, and it came out Celine Schiller, something like that. There's no Celine Schiller. What's going on? So I looked up Schiller, and that's how I found that artist, through that serendipity. William Orbit, you might have heard of him. He produced one of Madonna's albums. What a thing to be famous for, producing one of Madonna's albums. He's a great electronic artist in his own right. And the Yellow Magic Orchestra. Heard of him? No. Yeah. They're the original makers of video game music, 1977.
Yeah.
This is the first one, because it really are songs from video games like Firecracker and others. Okay. All right. So that's my indulgence. Hey, Death Grips, I forgot to mention them. They're a rap act, but this is an instrumental album. I dig it. Don't dig their rap, but wow, what a great instrumental album. All right. So hope you enjoyed that suffering. I enjoyed it. I got self-indulgent here. Mixed discs. Yeah. I know there are people out there who they do playlists, right?
Yeah.
And they invite people on Spotify, right? My son is one of those people to add to the playlist and everything. So but that's another generation.
Yeah.
And on that note, thanks everybody.